Hello, my wonders, and welcome back to Whimsical Butterflies. So today I thought I would start my endeavor into drawing at least the main cast of Over the Garden Wall. So I thought I'd start with Wirt because he's my favorite out of the three, which is an unpopular opinion. Most people tend to like Greg, but Greg gets on my nerves. But enough about that. For those of you who don't know, Over the Garden Wall is a short series that Cartoon Networks did a while back. I think in was it 2011? Something like that. It's an old show, well, older, about these two brothers who are lost in the woods. Now, it's a really sweet story. There's a lot of whimsy in it, and there's a lot of beauty and aesthetic. All of the backgrounds kind of have a more painted feel, and it's really a wonderful show to watch for the fall season. Autumn, as leaves are starting to fall and turn fiery colors. It's beautiful. So you see me, I just laid down a quick sketch layer. It didn't really take me very long, probably maybe like 15 minutes. And then I jumped straight into line art. I don't believe in making my sketch perfect before I do line art. I find that my line art tends to be stiff if I do that. And it's kind of scary jumping in, I know, but I normally sketch with a ballpoint pen when I do traditional art, and I do a lot of traditional art. I tend to just jump in with a ballpoint pen, and I don't believe in pencil, so it wasn't that bad. So in the story, Wirt is he's the eldest, and so he's kind of a worrywart. He's very cautious, he's very unsure of the things that the boys find in the woods, and he's always cautioning Greg, his little brother, to not go and, run off because there could be an axe murderer. Which, okay, valid Wirt, there always could be an axe murderer in the woods. If, TV shows have taught me nothing, it's that there's always something in the woods. But he's more cautious, he's more unsure of himself. I think he's either 14 or 15, he might be 16. They don't really give us a lot of ages in the show. But he's kind of on the younger end of his teenage years, trying to figure out who he is and who does he want to be. And, he's unsure of himself, like any young, impressionable high schooler would be. There's a lot of things that you find out about Wirt within the show and throughout, but I won't tell you because those are spoilers. But yeah. The other thing about Wirt is that he's kind of got an artist's heart. He's very dramatic. He's very melancholic. He's always like, this is where I die, on the verge of nothingness. He's a melancholic. He's just very dramatic, takes himself way too seriously. But those are kind of the reasons that I love him, is because he's just overly dramatic and is like, we're all just gonna die. This is the end. There's nothing more for us. Because, I don't know, that's just the way he is, so. He's an interesting character, and he does have a lot of character growth throughout the show, and I do really love the way that they portrayed that. So I want to talk about Wirt's design. Not necessarily his design as a character, the way that the show designed him, but more of why I chose the things I chose to draw. My style is kind of weird. It's not really cartoony. It's not really anime. It's very much an illustrative style of something. I've been drawing for a long time, so I definitely have my own style. So I chose to make Wirt a lot taller than like a taller child. He's supposed to be a teenager, but I didn't want him to look like a shorter teenager, because in the show he's kind of shown not that much shorter than the adults, but a little bit taller than most of the other teenagers that we get to see, which there's not very many, but so that made me believe that he was a tall, kind of lanky teenager, which very much fit his whole aesthetic of I'm adrift in a sea of loneliness vibes that he's got going on. As for his cape, I made it a lot fuller than it, is supposed to be in the show, because I like fuller capes, and I don't care what Edna Mode says. Capes are great. And I made, of course, his pointy hat a little bit taller, because, those shapes are very important. Shapes are important when you're drawing things. So yeah. That's why I chose the things that I chose. I wanted to keep him very on brand. I wanted to keep all elements of his outfit on brand. The high-waisted pants, the suspenders, the button down, the mismatched shoes, all of that. I wanted it to be on brand. And then of course with his little fringe sticking out the front, I made it a little bit cuter instead of weird triangle things, because I thought that was just... It works for a cartoon style. I don't really think it works very well for my style. My hair tends to need to be attached to the head, not the hat. So, little details there. When it came to picking colors for Wirt, I decided to just pick all of his colors exactly. I didn't really feel like playing with the color wheel and trying to find the right colors that all went well together, when, they already did that for me. So I just picked his colors, and then I added my painterly style on it later, but we'll get there. The one thing I did do, because of the way my style is, I have eye color, and that's not something that they offered. So I made an executive decision, and I decided to make his eyes brown. I felt like it would fit well with the rest of his brown hair. He's poetic. He kind of feels like he's normal and boring, and I don't know, people with brown eyes always tell me that they're boring and they wish they had green or blue, so I decided to go with brown. I felt that fit him, and the rest of it is just it's his color palette, and shading and techniques and texture will all be applied later. I did keep the two red colors the same, mainly because I didn't realize that under his cape was a different color of red. It was a bit warmer, more of a purpley reddish color, whereas the color I picked was more orange because it was the same as the hat color. But whatever, we'll just go with it and pretend that it was intentional, and we'll just do that. Next time I plan on doing Greg, mostly because I don't really want to tackle Beatrice. I probably will draw her at some point, but hopefully next time I'll do Greg, and hopefully it will be a much faster process the whole way around. I don't really do a lot of art digitally, And so it kind of took me a while to get back into my groove and remember how I like to do it and what to do. I mean, you probably are in agony watching me try to figure out how clipping masks work. And, you know, just trying to remember my technique that I like to use. And then, of course, it took me a long while trying to figure out how to turn this into a video because I've never done it before. So it's always kind of a big learning curve. So I'm hoping that the next one will come together faster and also will be shorter because no one really wants to sit here for 16 minutes watching a speed paint of the same thing. It's kind of boring, I know, so I'm hoping to make that shorter for you next time. But as we're getting closer to the end here, now we're moving into the painting style. I'm going to start to talk about that and how I developed the style and why I developed the style and what I love about it. One of the things that I wanted to do with this painting, with this picture, was to make it look like it was a painting instead of like some crisp, perfect digital picture. I love looking at old classical paintings where you can see the brush strokes and the oil, and I think it's really, really beautiful, and I think it's absolutely fascinating that we can try and emulate this in a digital format. And it's been a goal of mine to learn how to paint digitally so that I can do characters in the same style. It's not something that I do with my traditional art because I use ballpoint pens and ink and markers. I don't really tend to paint characters. I tend to paint landscapes or houses, and usually that's on canvases. I don't really do a lot of that in my sketchbook. I do a little bit of watercolor painting, but again, I'm not usually painting people just because watercolor and people are annoying. There's too many details, unless you're doing like a bigger portrait. So with Wirt, I wanted it to be soft and have a very almost like an oil painting kind of a vibe, a feeling to it. And I think that I've managed to achieve that here. And I also think that this painting style works really well with Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall, of course, is a digital TV series, but one of the things that they did was they painted many of their backgrounds, even if they were inside or they were outside in the woods. They did a lot of painting, and it was very warm and it was inviting and it was beautiful. And it's one of the things that I thought would go really well with drawing the characters from the show, especially in a digital format, because it is very difficult to do. It's one of the things that I've been struggling with for a while, and I thought that it was my program. I've been using Alpaca since I started drawing digitally because it was cheap and it was free, and you know, it was better and less confusing than GIMP in my opinion. I tried that one. No, never going back. And I finally learned how to use Alpaca in a way that achieves me this more painterly style, and I think it's really good for you to learn how to use your medium to get the effects that you want. And I hope that I have achieved that, and I hope that you all agree with me that it looks almost like it's been painted and that it fits very well with the Over the Garden Wall aesthetic. Alright guys, we're almost in the final stretch here. We're just gonna finish up with some blush and some skin shading. Most of it is just about finished. I wanted to thank you all for sticking with it and watching to the end of this video, even though we're almost there. It's been a real pleasure. I enjoyed making this. I plan on doing Greg like I talked about, and I hope that you guys will come back and come see Greg. He's going to be fun, and hopefully he'll be shorter, faster, easier to see and watch, and he'll be a little bit more energetic. Greg has kind of got that dark academia vibe, so try to fit that aesthetic. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope that this video was appealing to you. You learned something from it, you felt creative from it, or you were just, vibing, you had a good time. And I wish you all the best of luck, and then have a good day. Bye. So